What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the In the Round podcast. It's your boy, Matt Burrill. Got to tell you all real quick about our friends from Big Friendly Productions. Now, Big Friendly Productions, BFP, they specialize in creating merchandise for bands, artists, and even lifestyle brands. With their in-house equipment, they can produce shirts, branded hats, and more, as well as offer graphic design services. Very important stuff here. You know, they offer order fulfillment to handle your online orders and ship merch directly to your fans. They handle all of that stuff for you. And whether you're getting your first shirt or you're going on a 40-show run out on the road, hit them up for all your merchandising needs. Check them out, bigfriendlyproductions.com, or email them merchandising@bigfriendlyproductions.com. Shout out to BFP, Alex, Paige, and the crew down there. We support them and love them here at In the Round, and we appreciate their support. Y'all be sure to check them out. Also, rate, like, subscribe to the pod. Now let's get into today's episode. What is going on, everybody? How we doing? It's your boy, Matt Burrill, and as you can see on the title of this one, this is the final episode of the In the Round podcast. Not the final podcast we're doing, but the final episode of it being called In the Round. And today we've got a very special guest, the guy who helped me get this started back in 2019, 4 years ago. And it's awesome to have him back on here, and we got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. It's my boy Tyler Lessard, formerly known as Boudreaux. We spent a lot of time together on the road, a lot of time together downtown, a lot of time together midtown, time together during COVID, and a lot of hours doing this podcast in a variety of locations.
Yeah, dude. What's up, man? How you been?
I've been good, man. No free shout outs, but this coffee thing, you've put me on a lot of good food. You've put me on, there's only like 2 or 3 things that you've maybe put me on that I wasn't a fan of.
Usually those were things that I intentionally put you on that I knew you weren't going to be a fan of.
The most blasphemous thing you ever put me on was Fazoli's.
Listen, man, Fazoli's is just Little Caesars for Italian food. You got to know what you're getting there.
It's like going to a trailer park for Italian food. It's just not my thing.
It's fast.
I mean, it's fast, it's greasy, but most stuff you've put me on in the last 4 coming up on 5 years of knowing you has been solid. This Dutch Brothers coffee is definitely one of them.
Hey man, I try not to put you on too much bad stuff.
Yeah, you keep it moderated.
Just
man.
Fazoli's and chicken gizzards.
Oh, yeah, McElwain. This was the guy right here.
Yeah,
that put me on the fucking chicken gizzards. He was the leader of that when we were on our way to Rick's. My first trip to Rick's.
Yeah, we were somewhere in the middle of Mississippi when we had to stop for gas, and just, you know, he was like, "Man, what are these?" And I'm like, "Chicken gizzards. They're a Southern delicacy." It's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get some. But you go first." When sent him out there, and he got them, and I was like, "Yeah, let me get the chicken tenders, not the gizzards." All the people were watching him. It was hilarious.
Yeah, the old lady was like, "Baby, you sure you want these gizzards?" And I was like, "Well, I think I kind of have to. Everybody's telling me to get them." And then I damn near threw up outside the Sprinter van.
Yeah, there was a lot of those times that we introduced you to Southern delicacies.
Yeah, I remember going into the Alabama Museum in Fort Payne.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one? Yeah, we got all those like bootleg Alabama shirts for like $10.99.
They're all a little like... not just...
They're slightly misprinted.
Yeah, they were all misprints.
Yeah, that was on the way from Birmingham. That was on the way from Iron City down to Mobile and Soul Kitchen.
Yeah.
That was the home stretch in 2019 before COVID.
Yeah.
But dude, it's been wild. This is like your first episode, our first time doing a podcast together because we had done the Grapevine thing together,
right,
with Gary and Charlie, and that was cool. It was like 30-something episodes, but obviously as life came back and those boys go a million miles per hour, it stopped. But like we did the In the Round thing together for a fucking hot minute.
Yeah, I mean, we did that for what, 2 years together at least.
Yeah,
and like it all started literally at my kitchen table.
Yeah, it started at the first episode with Colton Parker was at your kitchen table, but we first talked about doing the podcast at Las Palmas.
Yes.
And not the one that we go to regularly now out in Hermitage.
No, the one down on 8th.
The one on 8th Avenue in town.
That was the OG spot.
That was the OG spot. And what was funny about it was that it was right next to that liquor store. So we'd go in there, after we got paid from our bouncing gigs downtown, and we'd get Mexican food, and I'd go in and buy a pack of cigarettes, and you'd walk out with a bottle. Usually, you had all kinds of eclectic tastes.
I like to try stuff out, you know.
You're like,
see
hey,
what's
man.
good, what's not. You know, sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, and because then we would go and get the liquor for the week. For you, Ethan, Dakota, like our whole Dave, our whole gang, and then we just get after it. Like, it's wild thinking now to like where life is at. Like,
yeah, it's definitely been a glow up for all of us. You know, we're all out of Spring Hill and Antioch finally, and we're up in the Herm. So it's all been a glow up for here.
Yeah, what's wild too is all the time that, like, because you lived in town, like at that point you were off Charlotte.
Yeah, I was off of Charlotte on 35th. So I was like 3 miles maybe from downtown.
Yeah. Yeah, in the gunshot range. Like, I remember there were times we would sit out post episodes, like, because we did
some late night ones.
We did some fucking late night episodes. We did some midday episodes. Remember that time Ryan Nelson killed Dakota?
Oh yeah, that was great. And Dakota just had to sleep on my couch for like 4 hours afterwards.
Yeah. So I don't know if I ever told you this. So this first time, like, we didn't even really know Randy yet, know Ryan Nelson that well. We just kind of, he was like a big get for us at the time. Like at this point, Ryan was like in his prime whiskey jam phase. Like he had a lot of shit going on in town. Like Show Up Drunk had just come out. What was his other one? It was Show Up Drunk. He had California was out.
I forget.
Easy Now. It's Easy Now. The one he wrote with Ward and Jordan Fletcher.
Yeah.
So for us, it was like, oh shit, Ryan Nelson's coming on. This is a big fucking deal. Now, of course, it's just Ryan. He was over at the house with me, Nikki T, Mark Oriot, and Jadis last night, just cutting it up and having a good time. But he came over and Tyler it was always like, hey guys, you can either smoke weed with Brill, or you can drink with Boudreaux, with Tyler. And Ryan Nelson was like, well, I want to do both. So
and
Ryan,
he did.
Yeah. What did he drink again? Because it was a big glass.
He poured a huge glass of, I think it was like vodka with a splash of something like Sprite or a seltzer.
Birch beer.
That's what it was.
Because you had all the birch beer.
Yes.
He did that, and then we went outside, and I think we smoked a joint or like a joint and a half. And my old roommate Dakota, who used to do some like camera, social media stuff for us in the real early days, smoked with him. And Dakota just started smoking.
He was a newbie to it.
Real newbie to smoking. He was he grew up. The guy's got like three middle names. He grew up very, very, very close with JC, similar to you and Tyler, you know. But by the time we got done with the podcast, Dakota fell asleep on the couch.
He fell asleep mid-podcast.
Oh, it was middle of the fucking podcast.
Because I looked over probably 15, 20 minutes in the podcast, and he's just slumped over there on the couch. Yeah, with his sunglasses on. I'm like, is he asleep or is he good? And no, he was dead asleep.
I have a photo of this. We actually took a photo of Ryan like on a knee next to him, like while he's laid down on the couch.
It was like a championship trophy.
That was our introduction to Ryan Nelson at the time, and which looking back on that is.
Do we have all the kickball days with Ryan Nelson?
Oh yeah, because we went through all that. Like, so COVID was like a wild time.
Yeah,
it was a very wild time.
It feels decades ago.
It does,
but also it just feels like it was yesterday. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and because for us, it was like you and I met. I moved down here October of 2018.
Yeah.
I come down to visit September of 2018, which is when I first met you.
Yeah, we met at Dave's house.
Yeah, we met at Dave's house, and we went out together for a night.
Yeah, that was the start of a lot of crazy nights. But yeah, we did. But yeah.
Yeah, and we went out, and this was when me and Kepsy. So the original plan too. I love just kind of talking about this shit because I haven't had many people on like in a while that I did like the early days. You know, like I feel like, and you've been in town now for what? Because you went to college here.
Yeah, so I moved to town August of 2013, so I'm coming up on my 10 years in town.
Yeah. So you've lived multiple lives of being here.
Yeah,
in 10 years. Like multiple.
Multiple. I mean, even in college, I went through basically 2 degrees in college, and college to me feels like it's hard to remember a lot of college. is that far back for me. But yeah, you live a lot of life in Nashville and you go a million miles an hour, and it's how you make it. But yeah, it's been almost 10 years for me now.
Because I feel like because I'm coming up on 5. I've been here about half the time that you have.
Yeah.
Literally. And I feel like I've lived at least 3, maybe even 4 different like cycles in my 5 years of being here.
Yeah.
So to think back to 2018, so you and I meet, and then we're working at Whiskey Row. We were both veterans of the weeknight shift and the weekend day shift, and then you moved over to being a sound guy. But we'd still work the same shifts.
Right.
But what was funny was Tyler would just come over to the door and say and just kind of like fuck around with me, Dakota, Dave, Hangley, Donnie. Who else was on there? Paul. Oh, Tim. Remember old Tim?
Oh, man.
Tim was a grumpy man. McElwain, you would have loved Tim. Tim was just an old grumpy man from East Tennessee. I think it was East Tennessee.
I think it was East Tennessee, too.
East Tennessee or Kentucky.
No, it was East Tennessee.
And he's just been
on Broadway since he was probably like 25, and this man was over 50. And, all the bullshit of Broadway eventually wears on a man. I did it for 4 years, and like every time I go down there, I'm just like, man, fuck this place. Like I start getting flashbacks of like stuff, see helicopters, all that kind of stuff is doing it every time I go down there. But like I can't imagine being down there for like 20 plus years, like all the stuff that he's seen.
Dude was a Steve Smith survivor. He did like 20 something years in the Tootsie circuit, just doing security. Yeah, that does not sound like fun. It's living hell. But, dude, we had a crew down there, and then you get moved to being a sound guy. And we had some night, but the night shifts during the week, which I was like, okay, this is cool. It's a little slower. But then you'd get those pops where it wasn't slow.
It's like spring break, or there's a big conference in town or something like that, and all of a sudden the bar's packed out till 2 a.m. and you've got 4 guys on the shift to control 300 people, and you're like, oh, cool. Hopefully nothing happens.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there were some nights when shit did happen.
Do you remember that night that the British Royal Marines came in?
Yeah, the British Marines sucked.
There was 2 platoons of British Royal Marines that came in. It was like over 100 guys. And they're just like, they walked up to the door. Tom was the lead then. And they just told Tom, they're like, hey, don't get in our way and we won't mess you up. Is basically what they said to us. And I remember at one point, like some dude was messing with them. They like walked up to Tom at the door and they're like, kick this guy out or we're going to take care of him. And we're like, okay, cool. And so me and you and a couple other guys, basically throughout the night, they came in at like 8 o'clock. And throughout the night, we kicked every one of those guys out of the bar. It was just like one would go to the bathroom by himself, and it's like, hey, Burrell, there's one by itself. Let's go get him out the back door. And so we just like we'd catch him like, hey, man, like I think your buddy went this way, and just walk him out the back door and lock the back door on him and be like, don't come back.
Dude, there was that one. I had some... Tyler and I were. It's funny because obviously we're very different people. Like Tyler is a tall, large human from the deep South. I am a smaller in stature, loudmouth from New York. So Tyler and I on a door together was fun because it was like I would kind of like I'd instigate some stuff. We'd play good cop, bad cop.
Oh yeah.
And if the person was too big for me to get to, Tyler would just his big bear complex would just scoop him up.
Yeah.
And you just get him the fuck out of there.
Well, it was kind of like, having a freaking, like, bulldog and a little chihuahua at the door. It was just like...
a bulldog. You're a damn Bernese mountain dog. Or what's the dog?
Yeah, Bernese mountain dog. That's what I want.
Bernedoodle.
Yeah, Bernedoodle. But it was like that, like, I'm cool, walk silently, carry a big stick, and Rill's over here just yapping at everybody, and then all of a sudden he bites off more than he can chew, and it's like, okay, well, let me take care of this so that he doesn't get his ass beat.
Yeah, we had some times down there for sure, and then 2019 comes around, and then it was actually right around the holidays, I think, was when
it was right before Christmas.
It was right before Christmas because everybody had left town. I was getting ready to fly home. I think that next day. You were staying at your ex. I think we were at your ex's place.
We were at the time.
We were at your ex's place and we had dinner and we were I was telling you like, hey man, I moved down here because I moved down here wanting to do the radio thing. That was like a big thing for me was I'm going to do some radio stuff very part-time. I'm going to make my money bouncing. And the radio stuff never panned out. And I was like, well, I miss the microphone. And you're like, well, hey man, I know how to do production stuff. We can figure out what we need. You introduced me to sweetwater.com and we recorded that. I think I might still have it in my voice memos, but we sat there and like I interviewed you basically.
Yeah, we like pulled up like a little like podcast app and it was like Brill just started talking and I started talking. We were like, okay, well, I think we can do this. So let's sit down and let's formulate a plan. And then we went to Las Palmas and actually like formally got it all together and stuff. And we started putting a plan together, and then what was it, March of that year, we did our first interview?
Yeah, we did our first episode at your, with some Audio Technica 2020s. I think they were.
And some blue microphone, like some handheld blues.
Yeah,
they're like
$80 microphones.
We were like, all right, we got $500. How we do this the best way?
Yeah, I was like, we had just kind of pulled together our money and went after it and did it. And, yeah, those first few episodes, and then we had the podcasts.
Oh,
because that house, that was like my first time experiencing like a truly like creative house.
Yeah,
because that it was, how many guys were in there?
There was 4 of us in there, and it was like a 1,100 foot square house, but it was split, so it was the top and the basement. So me and 2 other guys lived in the top with the kitchen, the living room, and the bathroom. In very tight quarters. And then one guy lived down in the basement in a makeshift room, but he had his studio down there. So it's like down in the basement, you had a big studio with a bunch of guitar amps and drums and all this kind of stuff. And then up top, like I had my little desk set up to where I could do production stuff. You had one guy over there that did beats for a living, like he did rap music. So, you know, he had his production studio, and the other guy was a guitar player, and he had like all of his guitars, and he had a little studio in there too. So it was like basically 4 studios within this one small house. Like we didn't care about living space. All we needed was like, hey, I need somewhere to mix and I need somewhere to be creative at. And that's all that house really was.
Yeah, it was just a creative spot. I had never seen that in my life. And I remember how big of a deal it was that we got to record the podcast in the studio. And by recording the studio, it was us sitting on drum thrones with mics, with those blue microphones, sitting on like regular like mic stands, not this like fancy Rode stuff that we've got, or these SM7Bs or any of this stuff. And part of the studio was the podcast. It was Cake and it was Felix, and there were certain guests that were not fans of cats, and
Carly Rogers
fucking hated the cats.
And they terrorized her.
Yeah, they climbed all over her Logan Garner.
Yeah.
They climbed all over Logan.
Wasn't it SJ that like they basically sat in SJ's lap for the whole episode?
Yeah, they sat in SJ's lap like she was fucking Don Corleone from The Godfather, and she just sat there petting the cat the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, we had SJ on April Fool's Day of 2019.
Yeah, we did.
So, which is coming up, which is now a little past 4 years ago, which is wild because she was like our little sister too, and she still is. But it's like wild thinking back to again those times on Broadway and like the guests in the early days, dude. We recorded there for a while. Then we recorded a couple episodes at fucking Dave and Jake's.
Yeah, we did do that.
What was that apartment complex called? The fuck was it?
Gazebo.
Gazebo Apartments.
Gazebo Apartments.
And there's a lot of people that have lived there.
Yeah.
Like that is
they're big apartments. There's enough buildings that it gets into double letters again.
Yeah, there's a shit ton of buildings. It's by the airport. It's
fairly reasonable.
Yeah, fairly reasonable. It's a good spot when you're balling on a budget and you just moved to town. We recorded Royal Lynn there, Brett Michael.
Ethan?
Dude, we did that with Ethan, and then Ethan had to play that night.
Yeah.
Where the fuck did he play? It wasn't his Whiskey Jam debut.
I think he had I don't think it was a full band. It was a round he had to play.
He was fucked.
Yeah, we were all drinking heavily that day.
He was fucked up, and then dude, somehow one of the pictures with him, he's like holding a cup of milk. Do you remember that?
No, I don't, but it seems on brand.
Yeah, like he just ended up with milk. I don't know where the milk came from because like, you guys were fucking drinking bourbon. So I don't know how we got in the milk from bourbon. And I was, of course, 420'd up.
Right.
Which was wild. And then we moved from there down to my place in Laverne.
Right. We did a lot in that little studio in Laverne.
We did a lot. That was where the first episode with Gary and Charlie was.
Right.
Dylan Marlowe was in there. The episodes right before COVID, Clayton Shea and Sam Varga were in there. The Sirens.
all these amazing people that we got that, you know, at the time were like big gets for us.
Yeah.
We were down there. And then
Chad Bishop. That was probably, I mean, we cited the Ryan Nelson episode earlier, but the Chad Bishop episode was probably the first time where I'm like, I'm too high to talk.
Yeah.
And we knew going in, and we love Chad Bishop. Chad's
a great dude.
Chad is a great dude. The man is a Florida man through and through. I put him right up there with Ryan Nelson. Anybody else from Florida? Chad is a great songwriter, a hustler, a grinder. We love him. But I did not know how much marijuana that man could smoke. And he showed up and he had 3 joints.
You found out that day.
And I was like, I got to be a good host. And the man wants to smoke. I got to smoke with him. I told him we were going to smoke before. And the episode was what, maybe 40 minutes?
Yeah, maybe. And you were just like over there, just kind of like staring off into space, just.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't have
the
the cameras going back then because it was different for sure. And then we had Dylan Marlowe was in that era. Who else do we fucking have? We had some that were like, again, just at the time you just kind of throw, like, as you keep doing this, your network gets bigger and you're able to have on bigger name folks and whatnot. But like we had some folks like early on that were just episodes when we were just green and we were just figuring it out. Steve Grauberger, bro.
Yeah.
Steve Grauberger.
You know, we met him in a round and he was like, yeah, I got this Tim McGraw cut. And we're like, dude, we got to have this guy on.
Here's a Tim McGraw cut from before, from the year that Tyler was born.
Yeah. And then we're like, dude, we got to have this guy on. He's got a McGraw cut. And then like, I mean, he's a great dude.
He is a great dude. And if I run into lawyer trouble, I'm probably going to hit him up. Like if I need a lawyer.
It was funny because every time you go to, what is it? Cool Springs Mall. There's like that one shoelace store there at the corner, and you walk out of that shoelace store, and there is Grauberger.
Oh, he's got
a sign in the mall.
Really?
Yeah, I see it every time, and I'm like, Grauberger.
Yeah, dude was an animal. We had him. We had Greg Gehring.
Yeah, what an interesting human being.
Yeah, Greg Gehring was a man ahead of his time. Man who really enjoyed drugs.
You want to talk about a man that's lived a million lives? I mean, that man has legit lived, I think, a million lives.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he still plays up at Jolton Feed and Seed a lot. He does like bluegrass nights up there a ton.
I'm glad he's still alive. I know he's dealt with some health troubles in his wandering days. Greg Gehring McElwain would be someone that would be, you put him and Terry together. And it would be a fucking experience. They'd look like brothers or cousins, you know? And they're probably, Greg is
definitely Terry's dad.
Yeah, Greg might be Terry's dad. We might definitely have to link him up. Wonder if he's hung like Terry, you know?
I don't know. Never got to that part.
No, we never did get to that part, thankfully. But then in 2019, after what was some of the wilder times at Whiskey Row, because we had... In April, we had the NFL draft.
Yeah. I think I pulled a 106-hour week that week because I was doing sound and I was doing security.
Were you still at Boot Barn at that point?
No, I'd quit by that time.
You had quit Boot Barn?
Yeah.
Boot Barn Boudreaux was one of my favorites.
It was great.
You in that tiny little hat was one of my favorite things. You at Boot Barn, and then you used to be able to you got good parking deal from that.
Oh yeah, they give me free parking, and it even went like a few months after I stopped working there. And finally one day I'd go in the garage and I scan my thing, it's like denied, and I was like, dang, like the end of a great thing is here.
Now I got to go to Whiskey Row, get a sticker, and pay $10.
I just Ubered at that point. I was whatever.
Yeah, you were so close to town, and then you could stay out and party. But so we did NFL draft, CMA Fest, BC before COVID.
So. Here's a funny thing. my second week working security at Whiskey Row, and really I think it was like my third shift, was the start of CMA Fest. And they were like, I was like, what is this? And they're like, we don't really know. This is our first year in business, so we don't know what it's going to be like. And you just threw this guy that came from a Christian college, came from small town Alabama, into the pit of CMA Fest, and was just like, good luck. It was wild. Like, I've never seen that many people. So this was 2018.
Yeah.
So it was like, Luke Combs was on the blow up. Like, all these guys were blowing up and stuff. And it's like they're all playing in town still. And they're playing the big stage, but they're also still playing like smaller places. Like, I think you remember how I think it's HGTV that has the little barn that they build over there,
the outdoor stage.
Yeah, I think Luke was like still playing that thing every now and then going and playing Nissan,
or even the Riverfront.
Yeah, so there was like 250,000 people in town, and it's just everybody's going out, everybody's looking for lunch, all this kind of stuff, and it was just pure mayhem.
That was also the year, because that was the summer before I moved down.
Yeah,
that was also the year the Preds were in the Stanley Cup.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
you not only had CMA Fest going on, but you had the Preds in the Stanley Cup, and they were just filling up the street, literally from like, I think you had it from like 7th and Broadway all the way down to like the river. Was just a sea of people just lining the road and watching the Preds. They had huge jumbotrons up all over the place so you could watch them. I mean, it was literal insanity. That's the busiest I've ever seen Broadway.
Yeah, that was, and I'm glad I missed that, because that would have been crazy. But we did CMA Fest, and then right around that time was when you got a call from our buddy Ethan Willis. Had seen something, because again, a lot of the way that this town works is people, you have friends that'll see something on Facebook or see something on Instagram and be like, hey man, this gig sounds like it could be for you. Yeah. And it just so happened to be with two guys that are from the same neck of the woods. Guys that one of them you actually grew up playing high school football against.
Yeah, we played my senior year of football. We played against each other.
Yeah, and it just happens to be Gary and Charlie from Muscadine, and then from that point, both your life changes, and then shortly after, my life changes.
Yeah, so I think it was like end of May, 1st of June. It was like the last weekend of May, whenever I went out with those guys. And at the time, I'd left Whiskey Row. I was working over at Luke's. Remember, I was working
you were at Highwire.
Yeah, I was working over at Highwire at the sushi bar and all that kind of stuff. And
running sound at the sushi bar at the brand new Luke Bryan's. Yeah, that was brand new at that point.
Yeah, it like just opened a few months ago. Well, it just opened during CMA Fest.
That's right, because they did that big fucking concert. That free concert on the street.
Yeah, so it hadn't been open very long at all, and I was working over there at the sushi bar, which was literally like you have a door here. That's a big like roll-up door, and you have the sound booth, and you have another door here. So basically, you're sitting in an oven on a rooftop, just getting beat to death, and there's no AC, and it was miserable up there. So I was just like, I gotta get out of this place. Like, I can't do it anymore. And so like the guys called, and they're like, hey, like we want to take you out on the road for a weekend. Went out on the road, had a great weekend. A few weeks later, I got a call back and was like, hey, like, we want to take you out again. And then after that weekend, they offered me a full-time job.
Well, that first weekend was in Virginia.
Yeah, we played Lynchburg at some, like, there's a bar there. I forget the name of it, but I remember we were supposed to be in the upstairs room.
Is it Elevation something?
It might be. I don't remember what it was.
Or it might be low ceilings, right?
Well, the upstairs room is literally like, an office space that they've converted, and they're like, yeah, we don't have a stage for you. And it's like, we just taped off some stuff on the ground, and the guys are like, we're not playing that. Yeah. And so we got moved to the big room downstairs, and we sold a few extra tickets because we went down there and stuff that night. And we played that, and it was cool and all, but the next night we played Patriots Fest. And that's where I met Farron for the first time, which was awesome. And then we played, and then afterwards we opened up for Luke Combs. And it was like, the guys, when they told me, they're like, yeah, it's going to be like, 10 to 15,000 people. And like, I didn't let them know, but I never ran anything like that big. Like, I'd been a few thousand before, but I was like, cool. Like,
mega church stuff.
Yeah, I was like, I can figure it out, like, whatever. And come to find out, it's 60,000 people on the beach. And like, after our set, before Luke came on, the like fire marshal came out and was like, yo, like, you got to, like, spread yourself out, basically. And it stretched another block and a half down the beach. Like, that's how many people were there and how tight-packed it was. But, yeah, so that was my first gig with them. And, you know, looking back on it, there was a lot of blind confidence in that of, like, oh, yeah, I can do this. Like, I'm not going to, like, cower down. Like, Charlie was like, hey, man, like, if the house guy or Luke's guy, like, wants to run it, like, it's okay if you don't do this. Like, we can find something else for you to do. And I was like, nah, dude, like, you brought me on the road to be a sound guy. Like, I'm not going to back down from this. And, you know, obviously at the time, like, I had all the theory to do it, but I never had done it. So it was like proven even to me, it's like, okay, I can do this.
And beaches are not easy because there's a lot of factors. It's an outdoor show.
Yeah.
You got the wind ripping.
You got the tide crashing.
Yep, the tide crashing. There's a lot of variables where it's not like mixing at a shed or an arena or a bar downtown, which you had been doing for a long time. And then I started out with you guys, I want to say that was July,
I think, and it was
because it was after
Huntsville.
the 4th of July. Huntsville, Alabama, sidetracks. My first time eating Moe's Barbecue.
Yep.
My first time meeting Bradley Jordan, at the time a baby T-Train, Thomas Trainer, which I love those guys.
Oh, those guys are great.
It was that room, and then it was Bragg Jam.
Oh yeah, we played Macon,
Georgia, the Crazy Bowl. Our first time hanging out with old
shit show.
Our first time hanging out with old Dibbles.
Yeah.
Which R.I.P. to our man Rick Hill, who's down. He was the owner of Crazy Bowl. He passed away a few months ago, and we went back to Macon with Trey not too long ago. Did a show down there at the Hummingbird with Josh Terry. Much smaller room, Sigs Inside kind of vibe. You know, it's redneck shit. But that weekend with you guys was a lot of fun, and I remember the time Lee Langston, old Lee Bird, was like, man, you sold a lot of merch. And I was like, I just talked to people, flirted with girls, and
I think it was the first time that they like had saw that too. It's like, yeah, they've sold merch before, but it's like, you get after it at the merch table. Like, you're not just somebody that sits there and like people walk up and you're like, yeah, I'll be $5. You're you're constantly hounding people over there.
You gotta,
Yeah.
and that's like I went out and filled in for the newly married Bradley Curry. Shout out to Brad and Alyssa, love you guys. Subbed in with you guys a few weeks ago, and I remember Brad, because he gets the emails with the numbers, the ad venue numbers, and he's like, dude, how'd you get that much in tips? I'm like, bro, all you gotta do is you gotta fuck with a few people, you gotta flirt with a few people, and you gotta just flip the iPad around. And he's like, and this past I saw him the other day, and he's like, man, I only did like $60 in tips.
Yeah.
And he's like, how'd you get like a lot more than that? I'm like, dude, you gotta flip it around, you gotta hustle.
Yeah, I know he doesn't necessarily do that. Also, I'll say this, like, a lot of times, like, Brad has a line like a mile long.
That's just it, though. You make them wait, and then by them waiting, they're more eager to get up to you. And then when they get up to you, you give them more time in the line to think.
Yeah.
They're looking at the table longer, and they're like, I really want that hoodie, but dude, that fucking Masters hat, I want that too. And then you get the hoodie and the hat, and then they're a little buzzed, and they click 20% on like an $80 order, and bing, bang, boom.
Yeah, that's how you got to do it, you know.
But yeah, and then I remember that
comes from your door days, like
that comes from the days of hustling the door, working bullshit radio events.
Yeah, you know, you got to learn that hustle like early on, or else you just don't have it.
Yeah, and you can't be scared of someone telling you to fuck off. Like, you just got to know how to take it. And then the weekend that I got hired full time and joined as Nikki T calls it, the Muscadine merch mafia, because there's been a long line of Muscadine merch guys. You go back as far back as like Randy McFadden, Jordan Fletcher, Lee Langston, myself, and then Brad's not even just a merch guy.
There was a long list of guys between like when I got with them and whenever you got with them, because like I think
Dylan came out.
Dylan
Marlowe sold merch.
I think Noah came out. Noah Hicks. Gary's old roommate for a little bit sold.
Patrick Britt.
Yeah,
Yep.
Patrick did. And there was a couple other guys. I forget who else came out with us, but like there was like a long list of guys, and it was like, you know, you'd be like, oh, so there's a merch guy, and they're like, yeah, he's just filling in for the weekend.
He's a songwriter.
Yeah, like, he's my roommate, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
He's in town to write songs.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny too is I didn't know this until recently. You know who was supposed to go out the weekend that I subbed in?
No, who?
Brian Fuller.
Really?
Yeah, I think Brian would have crushed it. But
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't get the gig because one, that gig changed my life. But two, Brian's doing the artist thing right now and crushing it, which has been awesome to see. But the weekend that I got hired full time and became a member of the Muscadine merch.
Was it Boaz?
It was Boaz and it was Heflin.
Oh, man.
And Boaz and Heflin, I see McElwain's face over there when I say Boaz and Heflin, two places that he has definitely been to and definitely had some times in. Boaz, Alabama, that was the outdoor
amphitheater.
The outdoor luxurious amphitheater.
Yeah, and I think that was the first show they ever did there.
Yeah, that was the first show, and Clay Jones Band opened that show. And then who else? There was another Alabama. It might have been Clay Barker. It was somebody else in the Alabama. It was two openers.
Yeah, I don't remember.
They were both local Alabama people that I probably know now and they'll probably watch this podcast, which is kind of wild just with how entrenched we've gotten in the Alabama Roll Tide War Damn Eagle scene. Remember the green room situation for that?
It was the upstairs of the firehouse, right?
Yeah, and half of those guys had handlebar mustaches.
Oh, yeah.
It was a bunch of bald dudes with heavy southern accents and fucking handlebar mustaches.
I feel like if you're a firefighter, like the mustache has to be strong.
Dude, yeah, it was that. And then they had like a camper, like a Breaking Bad camper.
Oh, yeah.
In the parking lot.
They didn't have AC, so we were like, yeah, let's not do this one.
Let's just hang out in the firehouse. And then we were like jumping down the fire pole and all that. And then that was my third time selling merch. I remember asking people like, "Hey, what do y'all do for fun around here?" And they were like, "Well,
somebody was like, do you know the Lord?"
Yeah, they were asking me. They're like, "You're from New York? Are you even a Christian? Do you know about your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yo, I got a cross. I'm good. I promise."
Yeah.
And then I asked someone, "What do y'all do for fun here in Bo?" I was like, "Oh, we fight our chickens and all that." And then I remember, I think I sold over $2,000 that night, which was like a big deal in Boaz, Alabama, where there's not a lot of money being spent, and it's at a festival, and it's like all ages. It's not the usual MB show, even for that time. And I remember Gary and Charlie being like, "Hey, man, you want to do this full time?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'd love to."
Did y'all go out after that?
And then we went out in Boaz with the mayor of Boaz, like 4 or 5 patrol people, like cops.
Yeah, all the firefighters.
The firefighters. I don't know if something happened that night in Boaz. I don't know who would have handled it. Because
that's the thing is like probably nothing was going to happen.
Nothing was going to happen because the entire town was at this bar.
Yeah.
And it was me, Gary, Zoltan, Justin. I think it was just the 4 of us. And we went out and there were obviously no Ubers in Boaz, Alabama.
No, y'all walked back.
We walked like 2.5 miles back to the hotel.
Bro, I have a funny Muscadine story, okay? Here's one from whenever you weren't on the road with us. We traveled this was 2021, I think. We traveled like 32 hours to play a 30-minute set opening up for Eli Young Band at the Montana State Fair, which is awesome. Like, love going out to Montana, love that part of the world. Well, we all decided to go out as a group. Everybody but I think Charlie wasn't there and Lee wasn't there. Lee went home. And we go out and we close down one bar. It's like 11 o'clock, right? We're like, all right, we'll call an Uber. And we look at our Uber and there's no Ubers. And so it's midnight and we're still trying to, there's 3 of us on our phones trying to get Ubers. And it's like searching, no Uber available. So we call Lee and we're like, dude, how do we get out of here? And he goes, I don't know, I'm asleep. And I don't think he was really trying to figure it out, but he acted like he was. And he's like, y'all just got to make it. So we were formulating the plan, pretty drunk, of how to walk back to the hotel. And it was like a 6-mile walk back to the hotel through the wilderness. And so finally, somebody pulls up and was like, hey, man, I'm going to go to this bar right here. There's one right down the street. It closes in an hour. If you want to hang out with us for the next hour, we'll give you a ride home in the back of our truck. And, we were, sitting there man, this sounds like the only way we can do this. And all of a sudden, one of our Ubers pinged, and we got picked up somehow. But, we were, legit thought we were about to walk, 6 miles. We were like, listen, man, if we start walking by 1 a.m., we can make it there by 6 o'clock. We have to be at the airport at 7, so we can at least all shower and then go to the airport and fly out. But it was getting dire straits. Was that
there. Bus or van?
At the time we were on the bus, or we were on the van. This was 21, so yeah, we still weren't on a bus yet, but we hadn't even drove out there. We flew. This was a fly day, so we had no car. Like, if we had the Sprinter, it'd have been great because Lee would have came picked us up.
Yeah.
But we didn't have anything. Like, we didn't even get a rental car. It was one of those things where the venue picked us up or we just Ubered everywhere. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you don't think about, like, you know, in Nashville and stuff like that, you're like, oh, yeah, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I've taken plenty of those Ubers. Yeah. It's always interesting, but I've taken plenty. But, yeah, out in Montana, they ain't got shit.
Yeah, we've definitely been out to some remote places where Ubers aren't a thing. And but yeah, man, the Muscadine gig was a blast. That was not the first time or the last. That was the first time, but not the last time I walked back to the hotel. Yeah, with my BK Lounge partners in crime from back then. Go Yankees! And then, dude, we COVID hits. And we've got momentum with the podcast. We get the round going. Like, we've got a lot of good shit going on. Like, we're doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
And then we lose all of our gigs. And I remember we were traveling through Louisiana and Mississippi.
Right.
Which was one of my favorite weekends. It was the last weekend I was full time with Gary and Charlie. Technically, I was with them through up until joining up with Trey, but got to experience Louisiana crawfish season.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, Monroe, where they just gave us crawfish and jambalaya and just a ton of stuff. Wasn't fun when my stomach was burning. I had to go to the bathroom in this little shithole bar in Monroe, Louisiana, and I couldn't make it to the bathroom. And I was just fucking sitting there prairie dogging at the merch table for 4 hours.
Do you remember at Baton Rouge the night before? You were like, it was your first real introduction into Cajun food. And you're like, what's this E word? And I was like, etouffee. And you told the lady, like, yeah, I want the crawfish E word because you couldn't say etouffee.
Yeah, I couldn't. That was my first time having Piccadilly.
Yeah.
Piccadilly at the Texas Club Baton Rouge.
Another southern delicacy.
Yeah, which McElwain, you have that coming up soon. I believe when this episode is airing, you guys will actually be in Baton Rouge at the Texas Club. So enjoy you guys just did that one, right?
Yeah, we just did it last month.
Still serve you Piccadilly?
No, we talked him into crawfish, actually.
Really?
Yeah, we walked up and he goes, man, I can get you a Piccadilly for whatchamacallit. I was like, dude, everybody wants crawfish. Can you just give us like 25 pounds of crawfish? And they showed up with it, and it was great. It was amazing.
Well, McElwain, that's your handle it for the...
yeah, if you can talk them into crawfish, because where they get the crawfish from is probably the best crawfish I've had.
Trey and Mitch have been on their crawfish kick here lately.
Oh, so I'm sure they have. Yeah, I figure you guys will enjoy that. Yeah, we did Texas Club, then we did Monroe.
And then we did the Mud Bog in Mississippi.
Leakesville, Mississippi, which what was wild about that 2-week period too was that so March of 2020, probably and aside from here recently in Nashville, obviously a lot of stuff happening, going down. That 2 weeks was chaos because you had the tornado that hit.
Right.
That's another fucking Matt and Tyler story.
Yeah.
The fucking tornado hits.
Yeah, and you weren't working that night, were you?
You were working that night.
I was working on Broadway, and I remember, like, some woman, like, walked up to me, and she's like, hey, like, I heard there's supposed to be bad thunderstorms. There's going to be a tornado. And I was like, Nashville doesn't get tornadoes. Like, rarely do we ever get a tornado here. It's like, you're fine. Like, I was talking to Tugboat. It was whenever he's working over at Crossroads.
Oh, shout out Tugboat.
Shout out Tugboat. Man, I love you, buddy.
That is a big, sexy bastard. Yeah. We love you, Tugboat.
So I was talking to Tugboat over at the door at Crossroads, just like taking a break from Whiskey Row at the time.
Benefit of being a sound guy, by the way, certain gigs, you can kind of stroll and get your networking in on Broadway.
Yeah.
You're not, once you get them set 4 hours, you don't need to be on the floor for all 4 hours.
Right. Yeah. It's like, every like 2 hours, I'd take like a 15-minute stroll around the block.
Go down to the candy store, get some ice cream.
If I was there now, like maybe I'll get some new Nikes at 5th and Broad or something like that.
You'd be shopping. You'd be
Just walk back with a bag. I used to do that. I used to go down to Boot Barn and buy some stuff for y'all. Like, especially there's times where I had to buy stuff for y'all or something like that, like boot polish or whatever. And I was like, cool, man, I'm going to get this band up and running. I'm going to run down to Boot Barn real quick.
So the night of the tornado.
Yeah. So I was working and all of a sudden, like, I see the alert on my phone, and, Broadway, Whiskey Row is 4th and Broad, and the tornado is not even a mile away. So, like, we were definitely within earshot of all of it and everything. And all of a sudden, like, we start getting the notifications, like, hey, there was a tornado. Like, stuff starts blowing up on Twitter and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of, like, showed it to the guys on stage, like, hey, like, whatever. And all those guys on stage lived within a half mile of the path of the tornado.
And what's funny too, again, just like the full circle, even looking to now, the guys on the stage at that time were Dean, Mikey, Henry Martin.
Yeah, Henry, Ivy.
I'm still very close with all these people.
Yeah, and then Eric
Shaney, who plays with Tyler, plays drums for Tyler Braden.
Yeah, so all those guys were on stage, and like, this is kind of where I started getting off of Broadway and like realizing what Broadway was for me is like, the bar didn't let them go home. Like, Kelly, I think it was.
Yeah.
Like Sid and Kelly, like their place got struck, and there was a bartender there that, like, her place got hit, and it's like they didn't let any of us go home because we had to call corporate in Arizona, and Arizona was like, yeah, like, y'all got bad weather, but like whatever. And it's like, no, we just had a major tornado here.
Yeah.
And a lot of people got affected by that thing, especially up in East Nashville. But like I said, like, some of the bartenders got hit, and everybody on the stage was freaking out because they all lived within like a half mile of the path. And so Dean's brother was at home, and like, he was dead to the world, asleep, but nobody could get a hold of him. So, Dean's freaking out and all this kind of stuff. And like, they're all freaking out trying to get off. And I think finally at like 2:30, they're like, all right, y'all can go. And it's like the bar closes at 3. It's like, cool, you gave us 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a crazy night. And then we went out that night. I think you picked me up that night.
Me and Ethan Willis came to pick you up.
Uber shut down.
Yeah, of course. Uber shut down. And I remember I was living in Laverne with Ethan and Dakota.
Yeah.
And I remember Ethan being like, all right, Brill, I know you're from New York. I'm from Mississippi. I've dealt with these things before. You hear this, this, and this. You're gonna get in the bathtub here. You're gonna do this, that. And then I remember he grabbed his piece, and I'm like, What are you grabbing? What are you grabbing the gun for? He's like, man, you never know what people are going to do in crazy situations.
Yeah, for real.
And I remember going up 24 and just seeing just chaos.
Yeah.
I remember scooping you, and then you stayed, I think, at our place.
Yeah, I did.
In Laverne. We brought you directly back to our place, and you passed out on the couch.
Yeah, and then we, like, the next morning, we kind of pieced together that, like, well, our storage unit got hit from Muscadine.
Yeah, that was rough too, because Charlie was over in Hermitage. Like, where you and I live now in Hermitage was part of that path line.
Right.
And I remember in the group chat, like,
Charlie wasn't answering, and so Lee got out in the middle of it and went and checked on Charlie to make sure he was, like, good.
Yeah, Charlie and Mallory were asleep. Gary was in Donaldson.
Right.
Lee was in Hermitage.
Yeah, Lee was good, and he was responding, and he was like, I think it's still, like, even for Lee, like, it passed within half a mile of Lee's house.
Yeah, it, like, went right by Kroger where all of us do bus call now. Like, the tornado went right by Kroger.
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing the pictures of the storage unit.
Yeah,
and just
totaled our Sprinter. That's the weekend we were on Drew Baldridge's
Sprinter. Shout out Drew Baldridge, the Sprinter with the coffin bunks and the and it had internet, and it had the little lounge.
It had a PlayStation.
Yeah, it had a PlayStation, which brings us back to that. What is it? Wild Country Off Road? Is that the name of the one in Leakesville? That was our time. That was our time in Leakesville, Mississippi, and I remember that was my first time, like, going mudding, where I was actually on a 4-wheeler and on a side-by-side and on all this stuff. So I remember these Cajun dudes came around. And we're like, hey, any of y'all want to go riding? And I remember, I think it was Gary.
This was another one of our moments where we're like, yeah, this dude's from New York. He wants to go.
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
He's like, oh, New York. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to show him a good time.
Dude, we went through all the fucking holes. We did this. We did that. I saw fucking trucks that stand taller than the house that I live in. I saw random, all kinds of just redneck shit. And it was just chaos. And then the gig was my last Muscadine game. I remember everybody at the time being like, Corona, like kind of.
Yeah, it still hadn't, like, I think maybe the first case had hit the United States.
Yeah, it was like a West Coast thing. It was like a California thing. We were all kind of wondering, like, what's going to happen, like all this stuff. And of course, you're at a mud park in Leakesville, Mississippi, where they're giving you moonshine and all of that shit. And it's a wild scene. You have no idea. And then we got back from that gig, and then it was a few days later we recorded those episodes with Clayton Shea and Sam
I went
Varga.
to Texas, remember? Because I was supposed to go to Houston Rodeo, and I flew.
Canceled, yeah.
I flew, and literally, like, on my flight, like, I took off on the plane, and the world was, like, it was scared, but it was still open.
Yeah.
And I landed, and during that time is whenever the NBA player got COVID. It's whenever the NBA shut down
Rudy
stuff.
Gobert.
Yeah, and it was like everything like started shutting down. Literally like on the flight, I think it was the rodeo canceled, NBA shut down,
March Madness
canceled. So like I'm in the air for 2 hours, and that 2 hours the world just shut off. And so I spent the weekend out there, and I remember having the conversation. It's like, okay, we got 2 weeks off, because the guys at Texas, they're like, hey, we're not going out for the next 2 weeks. So all we need to take off is 2 weeks, right? And that's how it all started. And I was just like, do I stay out here in Texas and just chill with my girlfriend? Or
you're newly
we weren't even 6 months in at this point. Like we were still very fresh into our relationship. It's like, do I stay out here or do I go back home? And I remember making the decision to come back home because it's like, what if this is longer? Like, what if flights stop happening? Like, how am I going to get home? So I went home and came back to Nashville, and that's me and you kind of formulated the plan. We did those few episodes with like 3 or 4 people, and then me and you headed up to Delaware.
Yeah, we went up to Delaware, which I'm actually going up with Nicky T next week, which I'm excited to bring him up there, eat some Blue Coast seafood.
I'm going to have to get back up there and see Delaware not in COVID mode.
Yeah, Delaware not in COVID mode. Dan was like, my stepdad was like, hey, man, what do you and Nicky T want to eat? And I'm like, man, I don't care, whatever you want to get.
Great food.
And then Dan was like, no, dude, you were here during the dark ages. Like, there have to be, you were living in like a retirement community in the upper mid-Atlantic. During COVID, like you had, it was a wild time. Lots of late nights on the golf carts, lots of Zoom episodes, lots of ESPN 30 for 30s.
Yeah. The dance came out at that point, and that was like a saving grace.
Yeah, the Last Dance with the Michael Jordan thing, that was a big deal. And then yeah, man, and then we come back to Nashville, and after you go down to Texas, I go and play Farm Boy out in East Tennessee with my aunt and uncle, which was quite the time of my life. It's real crazy again to think about turning out horses and building fence posts and doing this and cutting grass, riding around listening to Clarence Carter's Patches on a ride-on mower with a wad of Copenhagen in my lip, like being like, I'm doing the damn thing. I'm listening to Clarence Carter at 7.
God, what's that? Son-in-Law. You were living the Son-in-Law. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Dude, I forget who the main guy is, but it's basically like this city boy who falls in love with a girl, and he like goes to her farm for like Thanksgiving break or Christmas break or whatever. And at one point, he's doing the "Thank God I'm a Country Boy." Like he plays that song, and he's just like him driving a combine, like do the thing. He's like da 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 da. But yeah, it was hilarious. That was you.
Yeah, dude. It was it was a fun time in my life because I'd never really done anything like that, and especially working for the some of the proudest Southern boys you can have, and that kind of integrated me more into Southern culture. Like, there's nothing better than waking up, and especially during COVID. My aunt and uncle, they're in their 60s, 70s at that time, and I'm riding around on this fucking tractor mowing the fields at like 8:30 in the morning. The sun's still kind of coming up. I got a wad of fucking Copenhagen mint in my lip. And I'm just riding along, just spitting out, trying not to spit on myself as I'm driving the tractor. It was quite the time. It was fun. And come back to Nashville, have our controversial writers rounds.
Yeah, those were some
during COVID, June of 2020, like 3 months into COVID, where we had our first Whale Tail takeover. which was a fucking blast. And then that's kind of where things grew a lot more. And then we start the pod with Gary and Charlie. We get invited to we do a big moment for us is having Stephen Paul and Dawson Edwards over at your house in Antioch. Our fourth, so we did Charlotte Pike, then we did my place in Laverne, then we did your house in Antioch.
And then we did your house in Antioch.
Yeah. So this was the start of location number 3.
Right.
Which is where we had episodes with some of our most listened to episodes of all time came out of that era. So we had Cameron Marlowe.
We did.
With his manager, Kate. I actually saw them this past weekend over at Cahoots.
Oh, yeah?
That guy puts on a fucking show.
I haven't got to see his live show, but I want to.
Dude, his show and his guitar player.
Yeah.
I forget what his name is, but he comes out, purebred Hoscat McElwain, papers and all. Comes out, he's got long hair, wears the fucking, has like the, what are those sunglasses that Arch used to wear?
Oh, Pit Vipers.
Pit Vipers, but they flip up like the baseball sunglasses.
Oh.
Walks out with a cooler. Little red cooler full of Miller Lite, and it's got a NASCAR sticker on. He's wearing a NASCAR shirt, and he's got a fucking cowboy hat on, and he is just electric, dude. And he's playing guitar, ripping solos. Like he looks like they play Simple Man, and he steps up and just hits the solo. It's like this is one of the guys. He looks like he survived the plane crash and Skinner. Like he could be up there with Terry, just up there ripping slide, like just killing it. But Cameron's show at Cahoots was just electric, especially because he's selling out between 1,500 and 3,000 cap rooms.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Cahoots booked this show like 2 years ago, and Cameron Marlowe is a man of his word, and which speaks to the character of him, his team. Cahoots is a 500 cap room, 500 maybe 600 cap room. And it sold out in an instant, and it was just awesome. And we got to go up to the green room, hang out with Cam and Colby Williford and Kate and Meg and everybody up there. And Wyatt McCubbin opened the show too, which was cool.
Oh,
but anyway, I digress.
Sidetracks.
I still get on those. I still get on those tangents like I did back in the day. We did Cameron Marlowe episode, our first Trey Lewis episode.
Yeah.
Which is still like top 3 episodes all time on In the Round, because that was the week after he played Dick down in Dallas for the first time in Nashville at our writers round.
Yeah, it was.
And that was the video that blew up, and that was when all that stuff started happening. We also had Dawson Edwards on there at that time.
Love Dawson. I saw Dawson the other night.
Dude, I love Dawson Edwards. We got some cool stuff happening with him and Caleb soon that we're gonna be promoting and announcing soon, which we're super fucking stoked about. Dawson, Stephen Paul, we had on that point. What else did we fucking have in your house at that time? We did a couple Muscadine episodes there.
Yeah, we did Muscadine with the Grapevine there for a hot minute.
A good hot minute.
Yeah.
We had your boy Benji Cowart.
Oh, yeah,
Christian
Benji.
Word.
Yeah.
What were the bands that he fucking wrote songs for?
The big one was Big Daddy Weave. He wrote I Am Redeemed.
All the Christian music.
Yeah, all the Christian.
That was an interesting episode for me. I learned a lot in that one. A world I know nothing about.
Exactly.
But then we did, what else did we do in that fucking time? I want to fucking look it up, because that was like a big time for In the Round, because that was like episodes like 50 something to like, we did Job Fortner.
Oh yeah, Job.
Carly Rogers round 2
Oh,
when
yeah,
we ordered the Dominoes.
and I messed it up.
Oh yeah, you messed up her Dominoes order.
Yes, I did.
She was pissed.
Oh, she was ready to kill me, I think.
Oh, then Chris Colston was the last episode that we did at your house. And then we did John Morgan. We did our first Ella episode, which is, again, another high stream one.
John and Ella, we switched to your house at this point.
Yep. Well, the Trey episode came out November 23rd, which was the week before Dick Down in Dallas came out, literally the exact week. We had Elijah Borders, LV Shane, bro.
Oh, dude, LV's great.
Benji Cowart. We had Maxwell. We did Maxwell at Maxwell's.
Yeah, we did.
We went over to his house. I'm in Dawson's place. And
for a while, we were going to artists. Like, we did McElwain, or not McElwain.
McElwain's right there.
Yeah, sorry. Other one, Matt McKinney.
Yeah, we did Skinny McKinney.
Yeah, we did hit that at his house.
And that was the final episode that you and I did together. We both had a lot going on and all that. And then I kind of kept it rolling. And then I bounced around because I took the pod kind of on the road, and 64 with Nate Frederick, I was at his house.
Yeah.
65 with Josh Kaiser was at Liz Rose Music in Liz Rose's office with all the Taylor Swift things on the wall. 66 was in Tyler Halverson's garage.
Dude, we've been having Halverson out on the road with us.
He's the best.
He's great.
One of my favorite humans that I've ever that I've gotten to work with, gotten to know. Like I truly respect.
It's funny because whenever he's not on the stage, like he wears like sneakers, gym short or sweatpants, and then he'll wear like a denim jacket, right? And he's wearing his glasses and his hat. And I said this weekend, I was like, Tyler Halverson is the in-person mascot for the South Dakota Jackrabbits. Like that's what he embodies as a human whenever he's not on the stage. And whenever he's on the stage, the marijuana music, it's great.
Western marijuana music.
Yeah.
And then I did Vinny Paolizzi was at RCA or MCA. Yeah, it was in the room that he shares, the writing room that at the time he was sharing, I believe, with Ben Chapman, Channing Wilson, and Big Rob Snyder. They all had an office in there. That was cool. Ryan Nelson. I forget where round 2 with Ryan Nelson was. Oh, that was in like the studio room, like the control room at Sean's place that I was living in. And then fucking Rob Williford. It was at all these different places. Yeah, and then I started recording episodes in my and then I started recording fucking episodes in at my house.
Yeah, you had that little like office
in Hermitage
setup.
Before Sweet Boy joined up with me and moved up here. And those were some of the highest I'd ever been. Having you was great because it was great to have another person to bounce in and ask questions. You and I obviously go way back, started this damn thing together. But you were kind of, you'd keep an eye on me and make sure, and you'd reel me back in at that point. And the Mark Oriot episode, the Ben and Meg episode, which by the way, they're killing it too. Noah Hicks, Colin Nash.
Yeah.
That's that late summer of 21. I did my round 2 with Trey. We had like Nick Haynes, Brian Fraser, Matt Daniel, Meg Patrick. Meg Patrick was when I started with McElwain. That was when we started that. And then like Stephen Wilson Jr., we had Big Dick Terry, a ton of different people on here. But it's wild to like see where it's all gone from where it started, and it's been like a journey, and it's been wild, and it's like even fast forwarding now, like our lives have both grown so much since we started doing this podcast. Like you're about to go on a trip, and we can talk about this because by the time this episode comes out,
the trip's done. Unless
there's a major plot twist, you will be an engaged man.
Yeah. So
how are you doing it?
Don't know yet.
You still don't have a plan? You leave like next week, don't you?
I leave on Sunday, and this is Tuesday, so But it's just going to be one of those things, like, I'm going to fill it out. Like, I'm going to find somewhere, and it's just going to happen there. Like, it's going to be the right moment, I'm just going to fill it out. Like, I'm not going into it with a plan.
So you just got to keep the ring in your pocket.
Yeah, like, I have, like, select dates where I'm like, it's probably going to be between this date and this date. Like, there's certain guidelines. I'm like, I think this is where it's going to be. So it's not necessarily keeping the ring in my pocket at all times, but like, there's definitely like certain days where I'm like, this is there's like 3 or 4 days where I'm like, this is one of the 3 or 4 days I'm actually going to do it.
What do you do if you're on the glacier posing? Fucking polar bear comes out of nowhere.
Luckily, the polar bears stay way up farther north.
Oh, so you're not going that far north?
No. So like, there's like one island like way north of Norway that like most of the polar bears live at.
Tyler's going to Norway.
Yeah, I'm going to Norway for like 2 weeks. So it's going to be an amazing trip. We're flying into Bergen. We're going up to Tromsø, which is like the Arctic capital. It's 300 miles above the Arctic Circle. We're going to the Lofoten Islands. And then we're going to a small town called Kirkens, which is it's like less than 3 miles from the Russian border. And we're doing a snow hotel there. So it's a hotel literally made of nothing but ice. And then we're going back to, we're staying in this thing called a bird box. And it's basically like a little tiny box. It's a king bed with about 5 extra feet on the end of it. And it's out in the remote wilderness. So we're spending the night there. And then we're going back to Bergen for a couple of days and flying home. So, it's going to be like a trip of a lifetime type of thing. And it's crazy that's happening because we've been planning it since August of last year. So it's been a long process of planning it and doing all that kind of stuff and buying flights and making sure like all the experiences are what we want to do. So, but yeah, we're going up there, but really there's no like major predator in Norway, which is weird because, you go up to, we did that trip up to Glacier and Yellowstone. They're like, oh yeah, this is bear country. It's like, there's not a lot of bears up there. It's like the polar bears are like way north on a remote island, and it's almost illegal to go up there.
Yeah.
Because like you have to have a very specific purpose to go to that island, and it's like illegal in Norway to interact with a polar bear because they're like one of the few animals in the world that actually stalk and hunt humans actively. So it's a weird thing. It's like cool, like there's no real predators. I don't really have to. I have to worry about a moose. Like, that's about it. Moose.
That's awesome, man. That's going to be such a great trip, and I'm so happy for you and Morgan.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that whole you and Morgan came to be. Cause
I remember like we were sitting in the car, and so the way I met Morgan was she hit me up in the DMs after a show in Houston.
And I got to say, you always used to give me shit for this. You were like, hey, man, don't post pictures of me sleeping in the van.
Yeah.
That was one of your biggest pet peeves. And how does fucking Morgan, Momo for show, shout out Morgan, we love you. How does she find you?
Charlie put me on blast for sleeping shotgun in the Sprinter. And she said that she saw that photo and was like, this is the one. And so we started talking after that show in Houston. And I remember sitting there in your driveway in Laverne one day, and I was like, dude, like, she loves baseball, like, she's good to me, like, all this kind of stuff. And you're like, you're going to marry this woman. And, like...
You guys were pen pals. You all were writing letters back and forth, like old school.
Yeah, and this was before we were even dating.
Yeah.
Like, this was, like, legit, like, I think the second week that we started talking. And I was just, like, head over heels at this point, pretty much. And you, like, literally looked at me and was like, you're going to marry this one. And I was like, I don't know. Like, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like, I still got to, like, go meet her in person at this point. Like, I hadn't even really done that. And you're like, no, you're going to marry this one. Like, this is the perfect one for you. And here we are 3, almost 4 years later, and it's come to fruition.
Yeah, dude, because we've gone through some life together.
Oh, yeah, dude.
We had our phases where... We were Broadway boys.
Yeah, we were for a hot minute.
We were Broadway boys. We had nights waking up at the Knights Inn in East Nashville.
The
waking
Wild
up
Beaver was always a wild time.
Dude, the Wild fucking Beaver, when you could rip cigs inside, was one of my favorite places.
Dude, now that place is blown up. Like, you can barely get in there.
Yeah, and they used to have the downtown employee discount. If you're an employee downtown, you got drinks
on Sunday night.
Yeah, you got drinks for like $2 or $3. You can get hammered for $30.
Yeah, I mean,
I used to do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have went in there and bought my drinks, which was a lot, like almost blackout.
You're a big man. You need a lot of booze.
And then would buy everybody around her too, and then would buy a few waters, and then would buy whoever I was with. Like if I was with a girl, I'd buy all of her drinks. And it's like, yeah, $30. And then you tip them like $50, and they're like, thanks.
Yeah, it was a flat fee of like $30 all you can drink.
Yeah, it was like all you could drink for $30. It was the greatest deal in Nashville ever.
Remember Cinco de Mayo?
I don't remember it.
No, you remember it. Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
I met those girls.
Oh.
Met her down at Whiskey Row.
Yeah.
I met them down at Whiskey Row.
Yeah, you did. And I remember you bringing them back to my house.
I brought them to your house, and we had to record an intro.
Yeah, we had to record part of the episode, and they were just like loud and...
They were drunk as fuck.
Yeah, they were.
And then we ended up out with them, and Dakota and I ended up at a hotel.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the girls saying something, and Dakota was like, well, welcome to the South. Because they were from Ohio. That was a wild time. Yeah, dude, we experienced some wild shit. But to see where our lives are at now,
probably the wildest night that I've ever had in Nashville was the Bujo birthday bash. 2020.
Oh, yeah, that was fucked.
Yeah.
That was really fucked.
McElwain, I'm telling you, if I didn't have 30 rounds of bourbon that night, I'm not sitting in this chair.
So all the stars aligned for this, McElwain. Like, literally.
Like, every star in the world aligned.
So this was February, because your birthday's February, right?
Yeah, it was literally the night of my birthday.
February of 2020. So this is like, again, right before COVID. We're on the road with Gary and Charlie.
Like first starting to hear the first inklings of like COVID's a thing in China at this point.
And we're, so we have our round at Live Oak. It's a Tuesday night, and Gary and Charlie come out. They didn't play it.
No, they just came out and hung with me.
They just came out to hang out. So it was Gary, Charlie, Lee, Zoltan, the whole
crew came out.
Whole team came out. We then find out that old brother Co and his whole crew are in town.
Yep.
So they all come, and we had just closed out the year of 2019 with them. So in 2019, we played right up until Christmas.
And then we had that like one-off.
2 shows.
2 shows with like New Year's weekend.
Oklahoma and Dallas.
Bomb Factory.
Beautiful venue.
Yeah.
And then, so we find out that Co and his guys are in town. So we market it as Boudreaux's Birthday Bash. And I forget who all we had playing it.
I know Stephen Paul was playing
big
it.
lineup. I'm gonna look up what that flyer is.
I think Ryan Nelson was on that.
Keep telling the story. I'm gonna look up the flyer.
So long story short, I had made friends with Co's production guy, Yo-Yo, and I was like, hey man, like come out if y'all want to. Like I know y'all are in town. So they all come out.
Co included, the whole team.
Co-included. But they all come out, and at this point it's probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock at the earliest, and I'm already like 15 rounds in. Of just like people like, hey man, here's a glass of bourbon. Here's a glass of bourbon. They're like probably within an hour, like the bartender knew what my drink of the night was. Like they were like, oh, you want to buy a drink for him? This is what it is. Here, go. And it's like random people are coming up to me and like they were just, buying a ton of drinks. Well, Yo-Yo goes up to me and goes, hey man, we got new drum cases. Like if you want a drum case or a big case, like we've got one. It's in the trash by where our tour bus is parked. So I talked to Charlie and I was like, hey man, like we could use this. Like, like at the time we were still like, we weren't fully there on all the production stuff yet. Like we still needed some cases and like, we didn't carry stands at the time. We didn't carry XLRs. I was like, dude, this is a great way to start carrying some of this stuff, start carrying Zoltan's hardware in a more solid case, like, all this stuff. So I formulated a plan to go get it. But before I could go get it, my drunk ass decided, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Red Door with Co, Yo-Yo, and Dre, and Colby, who is Co's front of house guy. And so we ended up at Red Door, and Benny was there.
Yeah, our old security boss.
So between Benny, Colby, and Yo-Yo, I don't think I had like a glass in my hand that was ever empty. Like it was just like handing me shots. Like I had blacked out there. I don't remember a lot of Red Door.
He didn't pay for anything.
Yeah, no. And then like at one point, like Burrell comes down and he goes, dude, we got to go. And I'm like, bro, I've been here like 10 minutes. He goes, you've been here for an hour and a half. And I'm like, no, it's been like 10 minutes, dude. Like swear to God. Like I just got here. Come on. He's like, dude, it's almost midnight. And I was like, oh, okay. I have been here for a while then. Then we went to Dogwood because we saw Ethan was working there, and Jamie was bartending, or Jamie was working. But yeah,
the best part, I have photos and videos after we get done recording. I'll show you. Maybe we can get one of our editors to put the video clips.
I don't know if I want that in there. That was a different Tyler. That was Boudreaux. Now we're back in the Tyler mode. But yeah. Anyways, the night ends pretty much with me hopping a fence, blackout. It's like watching a black bear climb over a fence, right?
The most athletic 300+ pound man that I'd ever seen.
I figured out, like, whenever I get, like, extremely drunk, I have, like, superpowers to be, like, the best athlete ever.
He was doing things I couldn't do, and he's double my size.
Why is it when anybody hangs out around Co and them, somebody's trying to jump a fence?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I grabbed the drum case out of the trash on the other side of this fence, and I just literally, like, power clean the thing and toss it over the fence and then climb back over. Well, we can't fit in Brill's car.
I'm driving remember my old Equinox? I'm driving the Equinox. And we had other people in the car.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, let me take these other people to their car and I'll come back and we'll try to fit it. I was like, okay, cool. So he takes those people and he leaves me in the parking lot behind Wendy's on West End.
With a knife.
With a knife and a mag light. And it starts raining. So you just see me sitting out in the middle of this parking lot with a knife and a mag light, just standing there belligerently drunk. Thank God a cop didn't stop by.
Talking to yourself?
Yeah, I was probably talking to myself. Yeah. Anyways, long story short, Brill comes back. We can't fit in his car. We get into an argument about it. I
have video of that too.
I was like, let's put it on top of your car, like all this kind of stuff. You know, we were getting into a big argument about it.
He's trying to tie a drum case that's like the size of the table merch rig that we have for Trey. He's trying to tie that to the top of my Equinox, like with ropes.
And I'm just like, man, where there's a will, there's a way. Trust me, we're going to take this. Anyways, long story short, we ended up back on Broadway somehow. And I see Henry Martin walking up the hill, and I'm like, Henry, you just got off gig? He goes, yeah. And I was like, was Eric with you? He goes, yeah. And I was like, so I call Eric Shaney, and Eric comes and picks me up in his Toyota Tacoma, and we take it out to the storage unit. We went and picked it up and took it out to the storage unit, and we got that case. And then recently we threw it away because it doesn't fit the rig anymore. But long story short, we never took it on the road with us. It just stayed in the storage unit for like 3 years.
Chaos. So playing that round, it was February 11th of 2020. The old In the Round flyer. Look at how far we have come on our flyer game.
I think we were doing that one ourselves at the time.
We were doing that, or Ethan was doing it, or somebody. We had no sponsors. That round was Lee Langston, Trey Team, Dylan Marlowe, Tyler Chambers, Brian Fuller, Jordan Rowe, Jordan Fletcher, Drew Baldridge, Jacob Lutz, Davey Arnold, Derek Austin, Andy Austin, Josh Kaiser, Nate Kenyon, and Jacob Lutz's newly announced fiance, longtime girlfriend, Claudia Swoop.
Man, that was a round.
That was a hell of a round. And yeah, I've got from that night we've got some good like these pictures in here. And it's funny too looking at it now, like you had your Nashville Sounds and your Billy Bob's hat. That was a good trip. But like look at this is pretty wild to see, especially now, like what's going on in my life. Trey Team wearing a Raise Rowdy shirt, February of 2020.
Yeah, dude.
That's pretty fucking cool, you know?
That was the OG shirt, too.
That was the OG. Yeah, I have all the fucking pictures and videos. I'm wearing Chaw Dogs in here, the Pardon My Take shirt. We used to do, that was back when I was drinking so much Bang. McElwain, I don't know if you ever learned that. I used to drink like 3 Bang Energies a day.
At least.
Like 3 Bang Energies a day because it was part of like being on brand. You know, I like to be on brand with whoever I'm working for or working with. And part of the Muscadine Bloodline brand was you're gonna dip and you're gonna drink Bang.
Yeah, that was a hot minute of a thing.
I dipped and I drank a fuck ton of Bang. Like I think I had every flavor, and I remember just my heart. I remember one day I had to go to the cardiologist.
Yeah, you did. And
they were like, yo, you got to stop doing this. You might die. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And I stopped drinking Bang. Then I switched to nitro coffee, whatever. Still at the caffeine.
Whatever, you're still drinking all the caffeine.
Yeah. As we sit here with these things right here.
Oh, this will keep you up the rest of the day. Trust me.
Oh, yeah, we're fucked. But yeah, dude, but now to see what you're doing with Gary and Charlie, you're TMing, PMing, front of house. Like you're a jack of all trades with them. You're I'm
basically walking in the venue now. I'm like, if you have a question, I am the answer.
Yeah. Which is cool to see where you've gone from getting brought on as a sound guy and working security and dealing with chaos on Broadway, dealing with random church shows, dealing with all this stuff to now like you're making a good living. You've got a woman that you love, that you're ready to start a future with. Like you're doing things now that we could have only dreamed of. Yeah. Back when we started.
Well, it's like one of those things. It's like, I'm coming up on 10 years here, and like I was thinking about the other day, and it's like, dude, if you'd have told me 4 years ago where I was at, like I'd be so thrilled to be here, even like what I'm doing now. And that was like right before I got on with Gary and Charlie, because at that time, like it was just the grind of Broadway and working a ton and getting through that. And so, like, it's crazy. Like, I moved to town to be a guitarist. I didn't even move to town to be a sound guy.
You wanted to play guitar for a pop band.
Yeah, like, I never thought I was going to get in country music. Like, I always thought, like, rap, rock,
Worship.
pop, even worship music for a while. But, like, once I got out of worship music, it was like, I'm going to go into pop or rap or something like that. So, like, it's crazy, like, how life has zigzagged and changed. But, I feel like every decision I made here has been the right decision. Like, I don't feel like I've ever made a decision and been like, dang, I wish I could go back and change that in Nashville. I feel like every decision has been the right decision so far to get me to here.
That's good, man. That's good. And it's like, I kind of feel it's where I'm at is pretty wild too.
Yeah, you got a lot of exciting things coming up, man.
I've come a long way from.
Yeah, dude.
And there's been some bumps in the road for sure. Been some crazy shit. Seen a lot of stuff, but like to see where you and I are at now, it's exciting and it's wild, man. I mean, we've done. There's been over 100 episodes of this thing, and it's gonna be different, still similar, but excited to make the announcements that are gonna be coming next week and be announcing all of that stuff. It's gonna be cool and gonna be fun, and to be making some money doing this is wild.
Yeah, dude.
And for it to be like legit dollars.
Well, it's like even like where we're sitting at in this place right now, coming from the kitchen table. Like, and it's, an honor to be like the last guest on this and start this with you and, spend all the time and see what you've built this into. Like, it's been great to watch that,
dude.
Sometimes in the trenches with you, sometimes from a distance. But either way, dude, it's been great to see what you've built this into, and you've got a lot of great stuff coming up.
I appreciate that, man. It means a lot.
I'm excited to see where this all takes you.
Yeah, dude. I'm excited too, and it's wild, and it's definitely some fun stuff. And then real quick, baseball season. How many games do you think the Braves win this year? So you guys are healthy for the first time in a long time.
97.
97.
Yes.
It's a tough division this year.
It is.
It's a very tough division.
We're getting some help early on. We're getting some guys out of there quick, you know. Some ACLs aren't as strong as they should be. Whatever. Yeah, I'm hoping the Yankees can be around that same number, but we are plagued by injuries right now. And I think Toronto and Tampa are still gonna be a pain in the ass. I think Baltimore is actually going to be solid this year. I have Baltimore to win a wild card. Yeah, I could see it. They're young. If their young guns can do what they're supposed to, and they have John Means back healthy. Yeah, Adley Rutschman scares the hell out of me. Yeah, Gunnar Henderson's going to be good. Yeah, they've got some pitching prospects in the works that are going to be, I think, some shockers. Yeah. Yeah, that for me is like the biggest fear on the Braves is our starting pitching. Yeah. Obviously we got Max, who's great. We got Spencer, who if his arm holds up is going to be great. And then we've got Kyle Wright will eventually be back. He's got some shoulder issues, but he'll be back and doing his thing. Like I said, like last year, 21-game winner, and didn't get talked about. So, he's a young stud. It's just, the 4 and 5 guys, we got to have some young guys come up and really produce. But yeah, no, I'm excited for baseball season, going to a lot of games this year. Going to games on the road. Yeah, hopefully. I'm sure you'll. I always when I get my tournament schedule, I'm like, okay, what does this coincide with MLB schedule? Like, can I go see a Nationals game in DC? Can I go see a, Red Sox game in Boston? Have you and I been to a baseball game together? I don't think we have. So McElwain's been to a baseball game with me before. I'm sorry. McElwain loves it because we haven't even been to a Yankees game together. We've been to a Texas Rangers and Blue Jays game. That stadium is gorgeous. Yeah. We were there the second day that it was open. We had some off days. That was probably one of the wildest, now that I'm not touring anymore, one of the wildest touring experiences I ever had was the week when the Cats left the Mice to run and play, where it was That's always dangerous. It was me, Trey, Sweet Boy, Terry, and Mitch, before Mitch had quit drinking.
And we had some off days in Dallas, and this was like the height of Dick down in Dallas, and we're in Dallas, and we're just parked behind the venue for like in the bandwagon for like 4 or 5 days, and there's like 3 gentlemen's clubs within walking distance. When I say walking distance, I mean a couple miles. We were walking a lot, like a Chinese buffet across the street, a biker bar, this or that, and one of the things was we got to go to the Rangers game, and we had to connect where we sat like. We were probably 15 rows behind the dugout.
Oh, that's awesome.
Behind the Rangers dugout. It was the second day of the stadium being open, so it's April of 21.
Oh, God.
And it was full capacity.
Yeah.
Brand new, Globe Life Park, brand new. And I am heckling the Toronto Blue Jays. I am heckling them. Who's the little fat catcher they have? Kirk?
Yeah, Kirk.
I was yelling at him, you little short, fat motherfucker, this, that. I was yelling at Vlad Jr. Of course, he fucking comes close to winning the MVP that year. And I'm like, you're not as good as your daddy, like just yelling shit at him. And Trey and all those guys were like, our favorite version of Brill might be Brill at a baseball game.
Yeah.
And then we went to a Minnesota Twins game. We were on the Kid Rock tour. We had some off time, and we went to Target Field. And I got to say, Midwestern baseball fans are just... They're very quiet.
Well, yeah, they're quiet in general.
They're Midwestern folks.
Midwestern folks are just good cornbread.
I don't know if it's all the ranch and Busch Light in their veins or what it is. But
there's quiet people.
I was rooting for the Mariners.
Oh.
I was yelling at Carlos Correa.
Of course.
And Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, that makes sense. That
and
checks out.
We bought tickets for the upper deck. And again, the beauty of small market baseball, especially early in the year. This was like March or April. It was
so there's still probably snow on the ground.
It was cold. It was a decent day. We played Wild Greg's Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
Wild Greg came to the game with us.
Oh, nice.
It was awesome. But we bounced around. We sat in McElwain, probably like 3 or 4 different spots.
I didn't go to that game.
You didn't come to that? I thought you were at that Rangers game,
I didn't go.
Or not at the Twins game. Oh, you stayed in. Oh yeah, he was a little hungover from Omaha. So it was me, Ben, Nick Gorman. Who else was with us? Mitch and Terry. Terry's a big Mariners fan. So all right, I'll root for the Mariners. And I was yelling at
That's
Correa.
another team that's going to do a lot this year.
Oh, a lot, yeah. I was yelling at Carlos Correa. And the Twins fans didn't know how to react to me. They're too nice. They wouldn't tell me to shut the fuck up. I'm sitting there. I'm wearing a Yankees hat. And I am yelling at Carlos Correa at a Minnesota Twins home game. They had just gotten him.
It's one of the few fan bases you can like do that at. I feel like
anywhere. I feel like you can do it at a Pittsburgh Pirates game. I feel like you can do it at a Guardians game. I feel like you can do it at a Reds game.
Dude, me and Brad last year went to a Reds like early season. We paid $6 and we never saw our seats because they were way up in the top. But we legit sat 2 rows from the outfield like wall right next to the bullpen. And we were talking to the people behind us. They were season ticket holders. They're like, "Oh yeah, our tickets are way up there too. Like we buy tickets way up in the top every year, and we get to sit like first 3 rows in the outfield." And they were playing the Cubs, so it was kind of cool because Stroman was on the mound.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then Seiya Suzuki was playing. Yeah. Like we were like literally like from me to the wall over there from him multiple times. So it was cool to like see that stadium. That's a beautiful stadium.
Yeah, I wanna go and check that out. And I think we're going to be trying to get out to up to Cincy.
Yeah.
You're about to embark on a wild year of touring, and again, it's really cool because I know I've obviously took on another gig and went out with Trey and did all that stuff, and I'm grateful for it. It was a huge chapter in my life, and still Team TL. Obviously, we're here at the luxurious DM Monday Studios. Shout out Trey, Alex, Mitch, Trey Bonner, of course, sweet boy behind the camera. But to see where the Muscadine guys have gone, and this year to be having opening shows for Eric fucking Church, to be on marquee festivals in solid slots that make sense, like
right.
And to have all the Turnpike stuff, which you guys got to do a lot last year. But I think we're going to try to get up to that Cincy show because
that's going to be crazy.
And it's just the stars again aligning. So Eric Church was one of the coolest things that I got to do when I worked in college radio. Mike Krinick from EMI had hooked us up with tickets. He gave us 4 or 5 tickets to a show in Reading, Pennsylvania. Yeah. And we got like pre-show meet and greet VIP things. Got to hang out backstage.
What era of church was this?
This was when he was doing the 61 days or whatever, so it
Okay.
was no opener, and it was him playing for like
yeah.
2.5, 3 hours.
That's dope.
And the sets were different every night.
Yeah.
So we got to see like the middle of that, and we got to hang out backstage with him, and he was cool as fuck and all that. So for it to be Eric Church, that's cool. Then direct support on that, I believe, is Travis Tritt.
It is.
Which is really cool because I got to see Travis Tritt years ago at Rock Ribs and Ridges when I was up in Jersey. And now on Travis's team are Caleb Conradi and Dawson Edwards as assistant tour manager and one of the stage techs. So that's really cool. And then it's the boys. It's all you guys opening up, and it's a fucking amphitheater show. It's a big deal. It was handpicked by Eric Church, basically, and his
which
team.
is such an honor.
Oh, it's a huge honor, man. And so I'm excited to go up to Cincy and do that. I believe that our tickets have been purchased, and we're stoked because I got to go up there to Cincy with Trey last year on the Kid Rock tour, and that crowd gets wild. Ohio is Ohio for a reason.
Ohio is a great state.
I'm going to a bunch of different festivals this year. Again, we're going to have a big announcement next week, and we have the Key West Songwriters Festival next week. Like, it's funny, I'm off the road now, but these past couple weeks have been like the busiest I've probably ever been.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like, the money situation's a little tight, it's still like the grind has just been heavier than it's ever been. And I'm super stoked and excited. Where can people go to like find you on all the socials and stuff? So I'm looking at that clock. I knew this one was going to go long, but we went a little long.
Wow, yeah. So Instagram at Tyler Soundbear.
I remember when it was. Remember what your old one used to be?
Just a wandering Tyler.
Do you think he said wandering, like moving around, or do you think he said wandering, like thinking, McElwain, when you heard that?
Probably wondering, thinking.
Nope. With an A.
That was one of the longest running jokes on this podcast early on was wandering or wandering. You know?
Yeah, whatever.
Deep
South
Southern drawl.
Alabama, man. But no, Tyler DA Soundbear, Instagram, and then I think it's Tyler Lessard 541 on Twitter. I think that's it.
How many troll accounts are we going to have this year?
I'm stepping away from that for a little bit. I still have my baseball one. I still have my one that I troll all the Ohio State football fans with. That's always great. Michigan, Ohio State's my favorite week of the year for Twitter.
Yeah, McElwain, you would have loved this. One last thing before we wrap up here. Remember the face app that would like change people's faces and like make them look old and a little slow? Like mess up their teeth and like make their hair gray and stuff?
We had Slow Matt.
So he took my face and
put a unibrow and buck teeth. Think of like you know, an old man that's got buck teeth, never been to the dentist, from like Alabama. Like
he took me and Roll Tide Willie and made it one person.
Yeah, unibrow, old man, gray hair, a lot of wrinkles, buck teeth, and called it Met Birrell.
And he made it a Twitter troll account. And it was very active and going in on some very hot button issues in Nashville.
I stayed out in Nashville more than I involved you in Nashville stuff because I knew people could maybe, but I went in on some Ohio State fans. Like I got my favorite of the guys that kind of look like thumbs. Like those guys would just say the most outlandish thing, and I would just clap back at him. It was great.
Tyler was just yelling, and I'd get screenshots of this from Tyler. I'd be like, "Motherfucker, people are going to figure this out. This Met Birrell thing ain't going to last." And
that's why I kept it out of Nashville as much as I like. There every now and then I'd hit something in Nashville, but like I tried to keep that one out of Nashville because I knew anybody in Nashville would eventually learn of him. But that one's long gone.
Yeah, dude, so many fucking troll accounts and just random shit, But dude, this was a blast, and I appreciate you coming on, and look forward to seeing all that you've got going on. You got a busy year ahead of you, and a lot of fun out there with the boys, and officially starting the journey with Miss Morgan. So I'm super stoked for you, and
dude.
Proud that we've gotten to reconnect here in the last couple months too, man. So it's been good and exciting and all of that stuff. But appreciate you guys all watching. Make sure you guys subscribe. Tell your mama and them. Shout out to all of our sponsors. We've got quite a few now. We're not just Delta 8 THC back in the day. Shout out Andrew Cirilla. We have got our friends from Big Friendly Productions. Y'all be sure to check them out, fulfilling all your merch needs. You heard about them earlier in the podcast, but be sure to check them out. Shout out to Alex and Paige for supporting the program. Also got our friends from Whaletail Media, Saxman Studios, and our boy Mitch Wallace and our boy Luke from The Digital Marketing Agency. For Sweet Boy behind the camera, my man Tyler Lessard. Appreciate you guys watching and checking out the episode. Like I said, subscribe, review, rate, do all that shit. And we have got a big announcement coming next week. So y'all will get to see the next chapter of what we will be doing on this podcast. Going to be some changes, but super excited about it, and can't wait for y'all to hear all about it. But you guys take it easy. Have a great day, and this has been the final edition of the In the Round podcast.